to have like wired headphones that I'd use for this show, and then I'd always just have to like in the editing of the show, I would always hear the leak, like the echo, and then I would have to like delete it, and it took me forever to figure out that it was my own headphones like leaking the audio. And so I just switched to the AirPods, and now it's like they're literally just like earplugs. So there's no way that any sound is escaping. But like those big headphones, like you'd be surprised how the sound just like slips out.
Yeah, the headsets that I use, like the ear cups, are like pretty plush. So like I think it leaves a lot to the imagination of like what can leak out like sound wise. So I think what I need is harder plastic. I think is what my solution is.
Yeah, I was using Dre Beats, and it was like the echo was insane, dude. Like you would talk and I would have to take out your double. It would leak it so clearly. Like, oh, pristine audio quality, just it would leak it out. But yeah, how are you, big boy? How are you
I'm chilling.
this week?
Can't complain. It's been an all right week. Got some stuff in the works that I can't talk about just yet, but I'm doing some fun things the next couple of months. So,
Dude, as far as Smash goes, and being your usual like heavily clouded top commentator swaggy self, lately it's like I feel like every time I talk to you there's some new thing under wraps that you can't talk about. And then like this past weekend I just saw the image of like that fancy, where was it? It was at the Microsoft
it was at
studio.
the Microsoft Experience Center in New York City.
Right. And so what was that all about? Because like that was another thing where you kind of, even though I'm your boy and we're pretty close, you could, when someone tells you to keep something under wraps, I'm surprised because you actually keep it under wraps. Like I didn't know, I knew that was happening. I just didn't know you were a part of it. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And then like all of a sudden I'm looking on Twitter, I just see your dumb face on the fancy couch with the fancy lights. It's like a very professional studio setup, and you're commentating some awesome Smash Brothers. So like I don't even know what that was about.
Right. So just for a bit of context, RJ, local TO, friend of ours, for the month of April was running an online circuit. It was by, I think, back in April, it had been a year since we'd been running online events. So I guess, in order to, a sort of Viking funeral or a swan song for Wi-Fi events, RJ for the month of April ran a circuit event, an online circuit. And through that online circuit, 32 people qualified for the finale series for what he called the Pandemic Anniversary Series. And 32 people qualified for that. And it was all online. The competition happened online as things had been for the last 15 months. And except the difference was that it was in-house commentary. So, RJ contacted me, and, usually just to kind of lift the curtain on myself a little bit, when I get hired for gigs, or like, I'm, usually this sort of stuff is like ironed out months ahead of time. So like, I know for a good amount of time that I'm going to be doing something, and they usually tell me up front, it's like, hey, like, don't disclose anything until like this date, or like once we give you the confirmation, you're good to tell people. But like most of the time I'll like let, people in my immediate close circle know what's going on. But for this,
So I'm not in that immediate circle.
Sometimes you are, but in this
is a tough place for you to break it to me that I'm not in that circle. Dude.
Yeah, sit down, Glenn. Have a drink.
Public record.
Yeah,
God, bro.
Sit down, have a drink. But no, for this, RJ, contacted me. I'd say around like the middle of like early May, last month. Late April, and was like, I can't tell you all the details of what's going on, but this is what we're doing. And I said, yeah. He told me that I can't tell a soul. I did not tell a soul. Most people very close to me did not notice this was happening until like at the 11th hour. And yeah, it was the first time I commentated in person in 15 months. It was weird. It was beautiful. And I gotta say, the Microsoft Experience Center, that was the highest production anything I've done in my entire life. That was an insane experience. It was awesome. It's tucked away in this like in this. It literally looks like a random Microsoft store. On Fifth Avenue, like right across from St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. And
Yeah.
there's this studio that they use in the back, I guess, for showcasing new products, and I know they've used it in the past for Dragon Ball Fighters invitationals. So that's where I have heard of it before, but I didn't know exactly where it was. And yeah, it was a once in a lifetime experience. And and there's an invitational happening there at the time of this recording. It's happening next Saturday, happening next weekend. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll be there for that as well. And it's gonna be dope.
Awesome,
I'm really,
dude.
really excited.
Joke's on you, bro. He told you not to tell Soul, and little did you know, I am soulless. You literally could have just told me, bro.
You said it, not me.
But who else? Who also commentated with you?
I was with some names you might recognize, Ajax and Flambeau, who are some pretty notable faces from the New England area, Connecticut and Boston, respectively. A commentator had to drop out at the 11th hour due to some complications, so we actually that person's fill in at the last second was Skiff, who is who made his his upbringing through the ranks of Wi-Fi commentary. He's commentated a lot of the H-Box sub tournaments and the Xanadu Online tournaments, and he's commentated a lot of like the top eights for a bunch of these big Wi-Fi events. And I gotta say, first time meeting the guy, he's great. He's a pro's pro, really knew what he was doing. And for him to he drove 10 hours to come to my house on Friday from Southern Virginia. And
oh boy,
yeah, listen, man, I respect someone who's dedicated to the grind like that. And I'll go on the record, he's a good dude. So I look forward to working with him again in person someday. So it was awesome.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, it's also just like from the images, bro. I was like, wow, this was like, dude, like good stuff from RJ, setting that whole thing up. It just made Smash commentary. Obviously we both already know that it's a real esport. It's super awesome. It's one of the biggest fighting games ever, whatever. But like a lot of people, they still look at esports in general, not just Smash, but like in general, as like almost like this, it's not on the big leagues. And when you see it done in that way, and like I saw the image of all you guys there in like such a professional setting, and it wasn't just, dudes at their house with their, Bin Laden setup, like their camera and their mic that's like you're hiding from the US government or whatever.
Yeah.
Like once you see it in professional, really nice like setup like that, it's like, yeah, this is on that level. So obviously, you always do a great job. I'm obviously proud of you for that. And it's awesome. So guys, go check that out wherever you went. If you want to watch some awesome Smash Brothers, and Kyle talking on this podcast and his own podcast is not enough, and you need more Kyle, more cowbell and more Kyle Rios. Go check out that thing. But yeah, this is the Glentendo Podcast. I'm Glentendo. This is a weekly Smash community / Nintendo Galaxy Brain, occasional Peanut Brain conversation podcast. The show goes up every week for supporters on Patreon each Thursday, and then becomes free to all to everyone else following Sunday on 7 different podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of other ones. So this week we're going to talk a lot about a listener, a disgruntled listener who has a bone to pick about one of the things that we said on this podcast. That's number one. Then we're going to talk about some news that apparently Nintendo's making a museum. And then we're going to end with some talk on E3, since we have a lot to talk about with that. The Rainbow Road to E3 continues. And of course, joining me, you already know, Mr. Kyle Rios, Koopa, the host of the Koop'd Up Podcast. Kyle, one more thing. The funniest thing is that, so like you just told me who you commentated with, right?
Correct.
And you're telling me all these names. And I know these names and there's nothing weird about it. But then I have to remind myself that a lot of people who listen to this show, like I have friends who listen to this show who are just Nintendo fans and they're not as familiar with the Smash community. And it's so funny when you're outside of the bubble to hear someone referred to as their tag for Smash. And we say it like it, for us, it's second nature. Like, I can't tell you how many people would just like, there are people I don't know their real name, but I know them really well, and I just refer to them as their Smash tag.
Yep.
And everyone's Smash tag is like some made up name that's trying to make them sound cool or whatever. And so, like, to foreign ears, to people outside of our little bubble, they're like, "This guy just said he commented with a guy named Ajax." You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I have to remind myself that it's funny to like hear that. But you chose a pretty Koopa's a pretty like good, like it's people already know that from Mario, so it's like that's a good tag because it's not too like weird. It doesn't make you sound like you're trying to make yourself look cool. It's kind of just a cool name, but it's not like edgy. And like for me, Glentendo is just a longer version of my normal name, so people just shorten it to Glenn, and then it worked out perfectly for me. So we got away with it.
Yeah.
But
Does it bother you when people spell your name with one N? I've always wanted to ask you this.
dude, so here, so here's the thing. So it always bothered me growing up because my real name is Glenn with two N's. Okay,
Yep.
and so it always bothered me growing up. But then, because I feel like one N, it just looks incomplete to me, dude. Like when I see the Glenn with one N written on paper, I'm like, something's missing, dude. Like it's just like it just doesn't look right, man. So it always kind of bothered me. But then I like messed up because my tag in Smash is Glentendo, the name of the show, Glentendo Podcast, whatever. Anytime I use that like name for myself, that name doesn't look right with two N's. So I made an executive decision like super early on. I made a marketing decision. I remember like going to my first Smash tournament, and I think my first time going to a Smash tournament, I spelled it Glentendo. And when I looked at it on paper, like when I looked at the screen and saw the bracket and I saw my name, I'm like, dude, that looks so wrong. Like that looks more confusing. That looks like people are gonna look at that and think it's like an anagram and they have to like scramble the letters around. So I took out the extra N just for Glentendo, but then now the problem with that, the side effect of making that executive order on that is that people then see my tag and shorten it to Glenn and think that my real name is Glenn with one N. So I've just decided to live this life, dude. All right. I'm just going to hold the L. I'm going to hold the L on this. Okay. Because it is two N's. But whatever.
You know, I have a couple of friends named Michelle, and they spell their names with one L. And like for a while, it like kind of like bugged me because I never met people who would like that. It was a first for me, but after over time, I eventually grew to live with it. And if we're talking about tags really quick, fun fact, Glenn, Koopa was actually not my first drafted tag. Fun fact.
Oh God, I'm afraid to even know if it's anything Sonic related. I'm gonna lose my mind, bro.
It's actually not. So you're
Thank God.
fine here. Actually, my original tag was my Nintendo Network ID, and it's the most boring. When people ask me like what the origin of my tag was, it's the most boring story on planet Earth. Like whole nothing burger story. But I had got my Nintendo 3DS. I needed to make a Nintendo Network account, and my government name is Kyle, and my last name starts with an R. So I was like, okay, what's Nintendo when it starts with the letter K? And I was like, Koopa. Yeah, that works. So my Nintendo Network ID for a long time was Koopa KR. And I entered like a handful of Smash brackets like that. But then hearing that name in action was like, that seems like a mouthful. I know it's not, because there are tags that are much longer than that and much more complicated than that. Me looking squarely at a mutual friend of ours, Shotgun Raptor Jesus. So
it's got to be one of the best tags of all time. Shotgun Raptor Jesus, all one word, and people actually got used to that and just call him that. It's amazing.
It's really funny. But yeah, my original tag was Koopa KR. I eventually dropped the KR and simply just became Koopa. To make things easier for everybody. But fun fact about friend Shotgun Raptor Jesus, he is the longest friend I've had in the Smash community. We met each
Oh
other
wow.
online at the Best Buy demo for Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U. We stood.
Oh
So yes,
wow.
just well, I won't make the story long, but I went to the, they had a, if you aren't familiar, we'll take you back in time to the glorious year of 2014, and Nintendo was doing a countrywide tour of Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS. So what they did was at select Best Buys across the country on it was like 2 weekends in like June or something. You could go to this Best Buy and play a demo version of the 3DS version and the Wii U version. So me and one of my friends from home, we went to a local Best Buy, which is about 25 minutes away from where I lived. And lo and behold, the line is wrapped around the building because we were like, yeah, we're going pretty early in the day. Like, it won't be that crowded. We were wrong. We were very wrong. So we're waiting in line, and lo and behold, good old friend Corey, aka Shotgun Raptor Jesus, stands right next to me in line. And they grouped us together to play the game together. It was a 4-player free for all. I got to play a one-on-one, game in the 3DS version, and then one, free for all of the Wii U version. And yeah,
That's
we
hilarious.
met each other.
Was that the one in Paramus?
Yes, it was at the Paramus Best Buy.
Yeah. And did you? It was the one where they were giving away like these like Mario Kart 8 themed flags.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So the funny thing is that after I met you and everyone else in our friend group years later, or maybe a year and a half later, I had gone to that exact same demo thing, and I talked about this with Riz, our legendary show producer, Riz. And he said he was there too. A lot of us were there, but we didn't meet each other yet. So it's hilarious because I just went with Dugan, famous like North Jersey Fox player from Smash 4. He's absolute legend in Smash 4. And me and him went to high school together, and like we always played Smash together. And then we would always like, me and him weren't super close. Like after we graduated high school, we kind of would like, we would like join together only if it was like Smash related. And so when we saw that the demo was there, I hadn't spoken or seen him in a while. And then he's like, yeah, let's go. But yeah, I remember that. And I'm sure that I was probably next to you or near you on the line, and we had no idea we were both there. Like everyone from our friend group that I know, like I can go through the list of people. Almost all of us were at this exact same thing, and we did not meet, even though we were right next to each other.
Yeah, it's like the butterfly effect. If we go back in time and like force each other to meet ourselves, I think we go forward and everybody's like a communist. Is that how that works? But yeah, me and Corey, we met each other, literally stood next to each other online. We went out to lunch afterwards, and then fast forward like I think like 2 years later, he starts showing up to Hitbox Arena. And then our famed local that we went to, and he was like, "Hey, quick question: Is your name?"
I'm that guy.
He's like, "Is your name Kyle?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you remember me from?" Like, we starts talking about it, and the gears start turning, and I was like, "Oh my god, what?" Like
That's funny.
It was the weirdest like 20 degrees of separation. So yeah,
dude, that's happened to me. All right, so I'm gonna just tell this story because it's so weird, but it's amazing. So, I went to school, elementary school, with this kid. I had this friend named David, right? And we bonded in elementary school over playing like Nintendo games. Like we would talk about it. We never really actually like saw each other after school or anything like that. But then one day, I think we got into like a trash talking thing about Smash Brothers for the 64. And we always used to walk the same route to school, home from school. So I would see him. We would walk together a lot of times, coming home from school. And then one day he's like, "Oh, you know what? After school, we'll play at your house." And I'm like, "All right." So we walk to my house and we're playing Smash on the 64. I don't even know how old we were. We were like kids, dude. Like we were like 5 or 6 or like 7 or 8, somewhere in that window. I don't even remember. And so we're playing Smash 64. I don't remember anything else. I just remember he was a really cool guy. I remember I liked him and we were friends and we played Smash. And he was one of the few kids who played Smash in my elementary school. And then the next year happened and he just disappeared. Like he wasn't in the same school anymore. And I never heard or saw him ever again. So obviously, fast forward to Smash 4, I was like, probably, it probably goes without saying, I was one of the best Link players in the world. Like, I made the list on the top 10 list, whatever. Like, I was the best Link in New Jersey and in New York and whatever.
Tallest
And
midget,
so,
never forget.
yes, I was the tallest midget. I was the best player with a character that only 5 other people played. So, so I was popular as a Link player, right? And then all of Smash 4, whatever, that was like how people knew me in the community. And then switch to Ultimate, and I'm at a Xeno. Xeno is like the most popular New York Smash Brothers local. It happened every Wednesday, and it's in like the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And so there's like fucking 1,000 people there, whatever. And so when Smash Ultimate came out, everyone looked at me as like, why is he not playing Link in this game? Like, Link is better in this game, and your Link was so good, and like you're kind of just switching to other characters and stuff. So everyone was constantly always trying to get me to play Link. And so one time I'm at Xeno, right? And there's a guy playing Link on the stream, and he's like almost about to beat Jen. Jen is like one of the best players of all time with Palutena. He's really good. And so the guy barely loses game 3, right? And then everyone's like, dude, did you see how good his Link was? Like, you should be playing Link, dude. Like, he almost won. He almost beat like one of the best players. And the dude gets up, and I see him, and he's just a grown man like me. And I just look at him, and I'm like, there's something familiar about this guy. And then, like, nothing happens. I don't even talk to him. But then, like, a couple weeks later, we're at some huge event in New Jersey, and the same guy is there. And he saw me commentating Nairo's set with Leon, where Leon beat Nairo with Bowser, which was like a huge moment at that time. I got to commentate that set with Ajax, actually, full circle. Anyway, so he saw me. He was at the event, this Link player, and he saw me commentating, and then he DM'd me, and he's like, yo, I don't know if this is weird, but you look just like a friend of mine from elementary school that used to play Smash with me. And then right when he said that, I like everything connected, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the kid. This is my friend David from when we were kids, and we never saw each other again. And it's just so funny because then he became the best Link player in Ultimate. And it was like a weird thing where like I was the best Link, and then now he's the best Link, and we have this weird past together. And now he's a good friend of mine. Like, we went out for pizza one time. Like, it was amazing. Like, going to Smash tournaments, like the things that happen, dude, that's just insane. Like a 20-year delay. I haven't seen this guy like in so long. And then it just kind of happened.
Yeah, no, there's like a handful of people who like I knew from high school. Once I started getting more involved and kind of made a name for myself, I started running into more people that I went to school with, and they were like, "Oh wow, it's like this weird like 20 degrees of separation that's like it's never gonna get old every time it happens." But like we mentioned, if we go back in time and try to make ourselves meet at an earlier time, we all become communists. So don't mess with the time stream, guys. So
all right, so I mentioned it earlier, and we have to address a disgruntled listener. Okay, so if you guys listen to his show, Mr. Nair comes up a lot. Okay, he loves the show. He loves the show a lot, and he listens to every episode, and he notices when there's inconsistencies, and it gets him upset. So he wrote in after listening to last week's episode 39, and he wrote in saying, "I've listened through episode 39, and I disagree with a lot." Now, before I get to what he said, I have to give some context. What he's talking about is that last week we talked about how Nintendo, they officially announced that Pokemon Diamond Pearl remakes for the Switch are coming out November 19th this year. And I was saying how I think that's a bad sign for anyone who really, really wanted Breath of the Wild 2 this year, because usually that's the window, or that date specifically within those few days is when Nintendo will put out like their biggest game of the year. It's like right behind Black Friday, and then you get like a whole entire month before holiday shopping. So usually that's what happens. Every now and then there's an exception, but usually that's what happens. And so the fact that Pokemon got that date, it led me to say like, all right, we're probably not getting Breath of the Wild there because we're getting Pokemon or whatever. So he goes on to say that he disagreed with that. And he writes, in 2017, Mario Odyssey and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon released within a month of each other. Mario Odyssey came out in October, at the end of October of 2017, and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out like maybe 2 weeks later, like in early November. And he says, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee for the Switch came out around the same time as Smash Ultimate in 2018. So Pokemon always releases in November for 5 years straight. It doesn't stop Nintendo from publishing a AAA game on top of Pokemon, because everyone is going to buy Pokemon regardless. I think it's very likely Breath of the Wild 2 and Switch Pro release together this October. So, any general thoughts, Kyle? I mean, I'm going to address it because I'm the one who said it. So I'm kind of like, I'll defend myself, but just in case you want to, say anything just in general.
I mean, to be honest, off the cuff, I wouldn't have remembered those things. But you also have to remember that, like, while those, for every Mario Odyssey you'll get like a lesser tier game that releases with that. So it's possible.
Yeah.
I think any game that releases in like that, like late November, not around like the, I most of those games come out as a way to like, hey, this will be in the Christmas coupons magazine in like a couple of weeks. So I don't know. I think
right.
like for every, like, it's one of those circumstances where like sometimes November's a really good year for a game. And granted, like those games weren't not going to sell regardless. They could have released those games at like, the dead of the dead season, which is like, gosh, I want to say like January, February, like is like,
right.
that first quarter of the next year is usually like kind of a dead zone for video games. And I feel like they could have easily released any of those games like earlier than that or later than that, and they still would have sold like hotcakes. But like for most of those games, that might not necessarily be the case. Does the Pikmin 3 remake sell as good if they release it in February versus November? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so the thing is that Mr. Nair, SSB, he kind of has a point and he kind of doesn't. And I'm going to address it. So his first example is Mario Odyssey and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And the reason why that is not a good point is because Mario Odyssey, even though he's right, those games did come out very close together. Mario Odyssey and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out for two different platforms. So when I was saying what I was saying, I meant more like for one platform. Before, Nintendo used to like put their big titles next to each other, but only if one of them was like for the home console and one was for the handheld. So in this example, Mario Odyssey was obviously only on the Switch, and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which is kind of just an enhanced version of a game they released the year before, it was just on the 3DS. So they don't really compete with each other because someone who owns a Switch is not going to buy Pokemon unless, if you're looking for a Switch game, you're not going to buy Pokemon. If you're looking for a 3DS game, you're not going to be able to buy Mario. The only time, so for example, Mario 3D World, the only time a Zelda and a Mario game have ever come out on the same day, ever, in the insane 35-year history of both of those series, is actually Mario 3D World and A Link Between Worlds. They both came out the same day. And again, the reason for that is because 3D World was on the Wii U and A Link Between Worlds was on the 3DS. So that argument doesn't really hold water. The Switch is obviously different, where Pokemon is now on. It's going to be on the same it's going to be on the same console as Breath of the Wild 2. Then he mentions Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, and Smash Brothers Ultimate, and that's a better case, but that's still different because those games are such different genres that they appeal kind of to two different audiences. Like Smash Brothers is obviously more of a fighting game and it's more multiplayer centric, where you could argue that, Pokemon, obviously multiplayer is really important in Pokemon, but it's primarily looked at as like an RPG. Sure. And it's more of in that genre. So again, I could be completely wrong about Breath of the Wild 2. It could be coming out in October. It could be coming out in December. Nintendo is insane. They're bananas. Like we don't know what they're going to do. They could literally do anything. But if I had to place my money, I would say it's not coming out this year because Pokemon and Zelda, they're different genres, but they're close enough where they're kind of competing for a similar audience. Whereas Smash and Pokemon don't really. So I'm gonna respect Mr. Nair a little bit here because he kind of did have half of a point, but I think my original argument still holds up. And if he's trying to throw shots at the throne, you just missed, my guy. You're gonna have to throw harder stones, my guy. All right, I'm gonna trash talk Mr. Nair because he needs to be trash talked too.
Yeah.
But anyway, obviously we appreciate your listening, and if you got any more problems with anything I say on the show, please write in, especially you, Mr. Nair. You dirty Ike man.
I definitely agree with you where, yes, in certain instances, I think Nintendo can do that. I think what their biggest fear is that they don't want to bury one of their own. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's like
exactly. Yeah.
it's like because these Pokemon games are already walking on eggshells because of how they've been received from certain parties.
Oh
of
man,
people.
yeah.
So like,
That's true.
God forbid they release, Pokemon, the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and Breath of the Wild 2, like on the same day or like around the same weekend. Like it is going to absolutely like tank a game that is already coming in, late to the party, not being what everybody expected it to be. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, and also we'll probably find out like within the next 2 weeks at E3. Because if for better or for worse, like if we don't see any Breath of the Wild stuff or we don't get a date, we just know it's not going to be this year. Like if the game is coming out this year, it will be said at E3. There is no way that it's going to come out this year and they're not ready to say that at this E3 that's coming in 2 weeks. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's that. All right. So, Kyle, this is a little bit weird. I didn't expect to hear about this, but did you hear about this Nintendo Museum talk?
I did not. No.
Yeah, you didn't, right?
Nope.
Okay, because this is like a really strange thing, but it's also kind of awesome. So apparently, Nintendo's transforming one of its old Hanafuda playing card factories. For those who don't know, Nintendo's over 100 years old, and before they were making video games, they were a trading card or a Hanafuda card company. Hanafuda is like a very specific type of card, playing card in Japan. And so they're converting one of their old factories that they used to make Hanafuda cards, and actually also apparently was also where they had some of their repair services. If you were to send in like a broken NES, they would fix it at this factory. So it was like half card factory, half repair shop. But yeah, they're converting it into a Nintendo museum that's going to be showcasing the history of their hardware and software and development philosophy to the public. And it's scheduled to come out and to be fully finished by March 2024. And when you buy a Nintendo game, you're going to have a chance of finding a golden ticket within any game. And if you get the golden ticket, you and one of 7 people get flown out to this factory where Miyamoto himself will lead you through traps, and whoever survives the factory traps gets to take over Miyamoto's role and take over this factory for themselves. Kyle, does this sound like something that you're interested in?
Only if this also happens to end up being sequeled by Snowpiercer.
What? What is that reference? Explain that.
So hold on, I have to Google this really quick. There's an urban legend that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Okay. There is a rumor that the movie Snowpiercer. Are you familiar with the film Snowpiercer?
Yes, it's like that train,
Yes.
like winter train movie where it's like the starring Chris Evans, the guy who plays Captain America.
Yes,
right?
there is a
Okay.
theory that Snowpiercer is a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
What? That is insane. That is actually insane.
Hey, listen, it's just Google it. There's YouTube videos that break this down greater than I can. It's a wild ride. But I'm curious. What's the Nintendo equivalent of like Oompa Loompa? Is it just like 3 Goombas standing on top of each other?
Dude, it would be Goomba Goombas, bro. What do you mean? It would just be Goomba Goombas.
I don't think the Goombas can carry a tune very well, though.
Yeah, that would be kind of creepy, bro. But if anyone's seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's hilarious because it's basically just like kids dying in this factory. Like they win a chance to go to this factory, and like they just they can't help themselves, and like Augustus Gloop can't stop eating the chocolate river and he turns, huge or whatever. He falls in the river. And then like all that stuff. If you haven't seen that movie, please watch it. That movie is beyond classic.
Yeah, Gene
But
Wilder is an absolute madman.
yeah. Yeah, wouldn't you want to see Miyamoto in that Gene Wilder Willy Wonka outfit and just guide you through this museum? But it's going to be located in this city called Uji. Uji is a small city neighboring Kyoto. Kyoto is actually where Nintendo's headquarters are. And it's a very small city that it has like a pretty decent amount of tourist action throughout the year. And it's actually really accessible through like public transit and stuff. So it's like a perfect place to have something that is like a museum or something that you want to visit. It's easy to get to, but it's not. I like the idea that this is not going to be in like, in the center of Tokyo or something like that. Like I would much prefer if I ever had the opportunity to go to something like this to, you know, not have to go into the most populated area of a city and have to like, be in super insanely huge crowds.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they're going to repurpose this old factory. They're going to be showing off a bunch of cool stuff. Like, what do you think in terms of like, first of all, let me ask you a question actually, before we even talk about this specifically. Do you like museums in general?
I am so in my earlier years, when I was like a crappy teenager, and earlier in my 20s, I didn't really get it. I wasn't an appreciator of the fine arts, but as I started hanging out around more like artsier crowds, I kind of dig museums. I like the concept of like learning things, learning the history of something. I don't go to like a lot of like the big mainstream ones, but like I've gone to a couple of like the smaller ones. There's this one museum that just popped up in Astoria. I think it's the Museum of Moving Picture, which is like it shows.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I've wanted to. It's been on my list of places to go like since the world reopened. But I can get down with the museum. I can get down with the museum harder if Ben Stiller is a security guard at that museum. But I can appreciate fine art.
So my thing is that this is going to be a very strange thing for me because I actually hate museums, but it's not because of it's not because of the museum. It's because I hate lines and I hate crowds and I really, dude, I just can't. I can't be in like public settings where there's too many people. Like I just can't do it. It's just not for me, man. And like that's part of the reason I was happy that it's not, like, oh, it's in the heart of Tokyo. Like I would much prefer to go to something where the odds of there being less people, you know what I mean, is greater. But if there's anybody who's gonna make me like a museum, it's gonna be Nintendo. You know what I mean? So what do you think in terms of like what would you want this to be? Like you personally, like it doesn't have to be like, oh, what do they have to do to satiate the Nintendo fans? Like just speaking of your own personal experience, like what would you want to see from this concept?
Well, number one, if you're ever looking for an out of the box date idea, Glenn, I gotta say a museum is a very underrated place. It's an underrated slept on date concept because
look how cultured I am. I brought you to the Nintendo museum. This is Pokemon.
It's French.
No, not Pokemon. Pokemon.
Yeah, it's French for electric mouse.
Yeah,
it's a great way. It's a great way to kind of show that you're cultured and that the only place you can afford to eat at is not just the Cheesecake Factory. This is me just projecting onto myself. It's fine, but so it's I like this concept because what I look for when I go to museums is I want my brain to be stimulated in some regard. Like I love whenever I tend to go to a museum, it's whenever there's some sort of like interactive feat that's going on. If there's things that I can like interact with, if there's like videos to watch, objects to break permanence and make me feel immersed in the experience. It's why I loved going to Liberty Science Center as a kid because they have they have like a granted it's not technically a museum, but like it's a museum. It's museum adjacent, I guess, as you can be to being a museum. There's a lot of interactive stuff, whether it be how you can touch the walls and like leave your shadow stuck on the wall, or like, learn about electricity and chemistry and all that stuff. So I would love some sort of like, interactive experience. Like, can I like give me a room where like I walk into it and it's like I am now in a virtual boy, or like,
Yeah.
let me wear like Captain Falcon's helmet or something like that. Let me sit in an R
Yeah.
wing, stuff like that. I'd love to see some sort of like interactive model, because if what I love, what I saw the notes that you sent me earlier, my mind immediately went to the second floor of the Nintendo store in New York City, but like
Oh
that on like
yeah.
steroids, where they have like displays of like famous iconic objects throughout Nintendo, be like the splatter shot or Captain Falcon's helmet, the Rob.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see like stuff like that, just like cranked up to 11.
Yeah, that's actually I didn't even think about that. Like they already kind of have displays at the Nintendo store in New York City. And yeah, I'm with you with that where this that's the same place my mind went, which was like they're doing a lot of cool stuff with Universal Studios, where one of the things they're trying to do to make the Nintendo park like unique is to make it more gamey and interactive. And obviously, like that's the whole legacy of Nintendo games is that like when other companies are busy making like cinematic games and trying to make games more like movies, Nintendo's always just like, no, we protect gameplay and interactivity, and we think games have to be about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so a museum, like obviously there are interactive museums, but maybe Nintendo could figure out a way to do it in a way that's more interesting and that kind of reinvents that or makes it more fun. So yeah, I feel the same way where like this is cool because this is cool on a lot of different levels. So like the first thing is this is something that only Nintendo can do because you can't. It's not like Microsoft can make like 8 Xbox museum. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
they've only been around in the console business for like about 20 years. And they don't have that many like beloved characters and old games. And even PlayStation, like, what are they going to do? Like, have a display where they show you the PS1 controller and then the PS2 controller and then the PS3 controller? It's like, it's the same controller. Like, Nintendo has way more history and way more things that work for a museum. Like, showing, the Duck Hunt Zapper next to like the Wii Fit board and next to like a 3DS and a Virtual Boy. Like, they have way more stuff that's like interesting in that way. So this is really cool from that perspective.
I'm a simple man, Glenn. I merely just want to interact with the Miyamoto Muppet.
Yeah. They should have like some weird stuff. Like these are the pants Miyamoto was wearing when he invented Zelda. These pants are sacred pants. We have to preserve these pants. We don't know what piece of clothing inspired Zelda, but we think it was the pants.
Yeah,
like I want to see like the weirdest Nintendo stuff ever at this museum.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they break into the Nintendo store and take that Game Boy that was destroyed in like the Vietnam War or something.
Yeah.
That like I want stuff like that. Like give me all the weird stuff, man.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that I had I'm gonna blow your mind with this because I'm fairly certain. Correct me if I'm wrong after I tell you, but I'm fairly certain you have not heard of this before. So I had this vague image in the back of my head when I was reading about this museum thing, and then I was like, wait a second, Nintendo's actually already worked with a museum before, and the Louvre in Paris. So
I
it's like
do.
it's the most famous art museum in the world. It literally has like the Mona Lisa in it. If you want to go see the Mona Lisa, you have to go to the Louvre. So back in like 2013, via this Nintendo Direct that you can go on YouTube and watch right now, you can go see Satoru Iwata, the former president of Nintendo, and Shigeru Miyamoto, obviously the guy who created Mario and Zelda and all that. They created a like they made a special 3DS that you use as your tour guide at the Louvre.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and so there's a video on YouTube that you could watch from the Direct where it's Miyamoto and Iwata walking around the Louvre looking at art pieces and showing you like, oh, when you come here, you get this special like 3DS where you can see any like sculpture from any angle and you can like see a map of where you are in the museum, and it has like all the audio. Like how usually when you go to a museum they give you like the audio guide thing. It does everything and it's a 3DS. And apparently they still use today those special 3DSs if you go to the Louvre and
What?
go to one of those guides. Yeah, and they're like these very like custom 3DSs that don't have, it's a 3DS that doesn't have a cartridge slot. It doesn't have like a few like things that it doesn't need. But yeah, and like you go there and you see a Miyamoto walking around the Louvre going, "Hey, look, it's the Mona Lisa. I could zoom in all the way on my 3DS and see like the pores or like the the texture on the canvas and everything." It's really really cool. So maybe they'll do something like that where like you walk in with your Switch, and if you're in front of a certain display, it'll be like it'll just stream the game to your display and be like, "Oh, this is Mario." And like, this is the beta version of Mario. And it might just be people walking around with their devices, or they'll give you a device. Like they could do so much stuff with their hardware now to like integrate it with the museum and make it really, really different and really cool.
Yeah, I think you've seen how Nintendo has kind of I feel like you can look at how they've approached theme parks as maybe a preview as how they'll handle little like intricate things within a museum. Like I'm not saying, I want to walk into a museum and have it look like, Princess Peach's castle or something. I feel like that would be like a little too on the nose. But like you've seen how they do how they showcase the feature at Nintendo World with the bracelet. We're like, oh, hey, if you
Yeah,
tag in
exactly.
here, you'll get like points sent to your phone. So I would love to see them do something like that. Where they make it an interactive experience throughout the whole thing. So, you're not
Yeah.
bored out of bored out of your mind all day. Because museums are it's a lot of just walking around, nodding your head, and saying wow a lot most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the thing is like I want them to kind of I think for Nintendo it would make more sense to make it like more of a social thing, because like museums are generally very quiet, and it's about like giving people their personal space to take in the Mona Lisa and all that, but with video games it's different. Like video games are things where like people laugh at stuff together and they talk about it, and it connects people. So I don't know. Maybe they're going to take the really plain toast route with this. And it's literally just you walk in, you see a glass case, it has an NES in it. And you go, "Oh, the NES, okay, 1985. All right, cool." And then you walk to the next display and it's a Wii remote, whatever. But maybe they'll actually like go far with it and go like, "Oh, this is like a really cool and like really different museum." But yeah, we'll see. The museum is currently being called the Nintendo Gallery. And again, it's projected to be open to the public and finished by March 2024. So August 2024, I expect on my birthday, Kyle Rios Koopa himself to fly me out to this museum.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm gonna have my expenses handed down by one of our friends probably. So
You can invoice Riz.
Yeah,
Riz
yeah,
told
there we
me
go.
you can invoice him and that all expense paid trip for yours truly.
Perfect.
You know what would be cool? If this podcast in 3-4 years, maybe I could actually do like a if we have enough patrons and we have enough support, maybe I could do like a patrons fly one of us out so that we can experience it and then talk about it on the show or something. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
That would be
And if
that
you
would,
guys
that would be
rich
kinda
enough
sick.
to do that,
I'm sure we can listen. Somebody had to have cashed out on AMC this week. That's the patron of the show. Actually, we know for a fact there is one person that has cashed out on AMC this week. That is a patron of the show. So
yes, that is actually true, dude. I cashed out at AMC like a month ago, and I was actually like I made a decent amount of money. But man, if I would have just left it in, I would literally be in Scrooge McDuck amount of money right now, dude.
My experience with the stock market is that one picture of Patrick from SpongeBob with the board nailed to his head. I know nothing. There's a running list of things that I know nothing about, and like 3 of them are cryptocurrency, and the other one is the rap group Brockhampton. I just don't get it.
Oh my god.
So
Kyle with his obscure pop culture references. We got you, bro.
yeah, I'm old man on the lawn, baby.
One last thing. If you're interested in that, like, so I mentioned the Nintendo Louvre 3DS tour thing. So they actually put that game out. So if you can't go to the Louvre, and obviously right now you probably can't because of COVID stuff, but if you're interested in that, you can download it on your 3DS. It's like $20 on the eShop, and then like they sell the physical game in the gift shop at the Louvre. So if anybody goes to the Louvre, please buy me that. I would love to have that physical copy of that because like I'm surprised they've been doing it this long. It's been over 7 years and they're still doing the 3DS tours for the museum. But man, I would love to have a copy of that game. That this seems like it's going to be like some insane collector's item at some point.
Yeah, that's gonna go for a pretty penny on eBay in like 4 years or whenever they phase out the 3DSs in favor for like Switch lights to do your tours at the Louvre.
Yeah, that's going to be insane. All right, so moving on. The Rainbow Road to E3 continues, dude.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, so we're going to do things a little differently this week. So what happened is that we actually got the exact time and date for when Kyle and I are going to be shitting in each other's pants.
Yes, sir.
Nintendo said June 15th, about 40-minute long Nintendo Direct at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is their E3 Direct. Then it's going to be followed by about 3 hours of gameplay in the Treehouse Live, which they've been doing that for a long time. Like I saw some people speculating like, okay, they have to be showing Breath of the Wild 2 because why else would they have 3 hours of gameplay right after? And it's like, they've been doing that even when they had nothing to announce. Like they'll do an hour on Mario Golf, dude. Like they don't care. You know what I mean? Like they do not care. So everyone's getting hyped, obviously. And, we didn't have an E3 last year for Nintendo. So there's a lot of build up for this. And every single like website and like podcast and all the gaming universe, it's the same thing. Everyone's getting extremely hyped and like everyone is just setting the expectations through the freaking ceiling with like Metroid Prime 4 and then Metroid Prime 5 and then Breath of the Wild 2 and 3 and 3 Smash characters and Master Chief and Halo. And like they're just going insane. Like it's like the expectations can never be met when things are that huge. And honestly, I feel like when we get caught up on the hype trains, dude, it just creates this scenario where I feel like I'm always a little bit disappointed with each E3 because the expectations for Nintendo are just so high every time. Like no other company has the amount of like diehard fans and the billions of franchises that these diehard fans want to come back. Like they could bring back 3 franchises this E3 that look amazing, and there'll still be a lot of people disappointed that it wasn't the 10 other franchises that they wanted to see. So like it's like an impossible thing where they can never win really with expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're gonna do here is we're actually gonna set the expectations like beneath the floor, dude. We're going to the core of the earth with the expectations, though. I'm trying to put these expectations as low as possible so that anything they announce would be super, super hype. Okay, so I'm gonna we'll take turns, but we could just discuss loosely, like plausible. I don't want to get into like theoretical, like anything that's too imaginative or anything that's too like, they're just gonna announce this and this, and it's like. We have to keep it within the realm of possibility, but like within the realm of possibility, what would be like the most boring but still possible Nintendo Direct that you could imagine? And I already know for you, it's like worst case scenario, they don't talk about Sonic. There's no Sonic involved in any.
Listen,
outside of Sonic, dude. Outside of that.
Okay, well, after Sonic Central, I'm pretty done with Sonic the Hedgehog for a while, but I'll talk about that at a later date.
What, you didn't want the Sonic Jesus piece quote for the hip hop community? Dude, when they said that word for word, they were like, and if you're a fan of the hip hop community, here's the Sonic and Knuckles and Tails diamond pieces you could wear around your neck. I was like, that is the funniest. They could have just shown it, but they had to set it up with that word. That's the worst way to introduce that for the hip hop community.
I definitely loved the memes of that picture of the shadow chain with the kids that wear like the green Zelda t-shirts and khaki shorts like that killed me. And watching Sonic at the actual Olympic Games was quite funny as well, but I'll digress. I'll talk about that later. For me, the most boring Nintendo Direct. Now, granted, I'll say this with a grain of salt as a caveat. No Nintendo, no Nintendo Direct can be bad because they're still showing us stuff which is fine. Like even a
Yeah.
bad Nintendo Direct is like, okay, whatever, I'll get past this.
I do want to say, yeah, like just real quick on that same point, like I don't think they've had a bad E3 since they started doing just the directs. Like the last time that I think Nintendo had a really bad E3 was that last live one that they did with the Wii U, where the final game they showed, the just one more thing, was Nintendo Land. And
Yep.
like they just talked about Pikmin, Nintendo Land, some Wii U stuff that ended up being very disappointing. And there was like no major franchises talked about. No Zelda, Mario, Metroid, nothing. And then after that, they literally haven't done a live one since, which is actually kind of sad that their last, E3 live was really disappointing. But anyway, you're right. The directs for E3, the E3 directs are usually like at minimum pretty good.
Yeah. So I will say, I think for me, the worst case scenario, like DEF CON 4, like I'm bored out of my mind that I'm actually going to like do something else with this 40 minutes, is if they don't show us anything outside of what we already know about. It's kind of goes hand in hand with like
Yeah.
why I thought the Sonic Central Direct was so boring, was because outside of the Jesus piece and like the occasion, the couple of things that did surprise me, it was all stuff that we had already known about that we could have read about somewhere else. So if worst case for me, this is 40. It's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes of Mario Golf. It's 10 minutes of Pokemon. It's 10 minutes of like other stuff that has been rumored and leaked, and like that's it. Like
that's such a perfect way to put it, dude, because like that's so true. Like if it's, what's funny, okay, now that you say that, I didn't even think about this until now, but so obviously everyone really wants Bayonetta 3 footage because all we got was that it's being developed, right? Metroid Prime 4 and Breath of the Wild 2. But there's a part of me that feels like if we saw, let's say, 20 minutes of each of those games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got release dates for each of those games, there's part of me that feels like people would be disappointed because it's like what you said, where there's still nothing that's actually new, even though those are the three most anticipated games, like maybe like of this generation, like in general, like outside of Nintendo, just in general, these are the three games that everyone is like obsessed with. To your point, I could see people just being disappointed. They're like, "Oh, that was great, but like, where's the surprises?" You know what I mean? Like, you need surprises, bro. Like, and especially because we've talked about this on this show. Obviously, like every time there's a direct, we talk about it on the show. Like, there hasn't been that many surprises in the previous directs that we've had in the last year. Some of it is because of COVID, but some of it is just like we're hoping that you're saving all that for E3. Like E3 is when you want them to blow your mind with like, you had no idea this existed and here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like again, it's those things. And granted, like even if it's stuff that we know about, like for example, I'm anticipating that, and I've heard in certain places that if they reveal the one Smash character, they're going to show what the last one is as well. So I don't know if that's a confirmed thing or not, but I've heard from certain people that if they're going to show, and I say that if with, big question mark, because like I'm 100% sure they're going to show at least one of the last DLC fighters for Super Smash Brothers. So like, and granted, even though that we're all expecting that to happen, it's still something exciting because we don't know what that's going to be. So that's like half a surprise, but like I'm reading, I looked up on Nintendo Life, what, Nintendo's confirmed games coming out, by post E3 is. And the only ones that we have confirmed dates for out of what I'm reading right now is Mario Golf Super Rush, which comes out June 25th, and The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which comes out July 16th. Everything else has and Pokemon, which just came out recently, so that's a new one. So I feel like we know those things exist. We're probably going to see a lot more of that. They'll probably give you the reason to want to buy these games, because like that's the thing about E3, where it's like, okay, if they're gonna show me something, at least give me that last piece of the puzzle that's gonna make me want to buy it. Like when they were they had shown Bayonetta 2, for example, back in the Wii U days, like they'd shown a lot of Bayonetta 2 like at all their Nintendo Directs, and I was like, okay, whatever, like this really isn't my cup of tea. And they're like, oh, buy this game, buy this game physical, and you can get Bayonetta 1 alongside it. I'm like, all right, that's it. That's all I needed.
Yeah, right.
So like, give me like, for games like Mario Golf Super Rush, I'm already like 90% sold on that game. Pokemon, Diamond and Pearl, I'm 90% sold on those games. I'm going to get them. But like, give me the last reason I need to be excited about them, because everything else that's coming out, whether it be like Splatoon 3, that Project Triangle strategy, like Octopath sequel game,
Yeah.
Bayo 3, Metroid Prime, the things that Breath of the Wild sequel that we know jack about, those are the things that everybody's expecting. But like we were trying to do, we're trying to tamper people's expectations. So I think worst case scenario is that they give us like 10 minutes each of like Mario Golf, Skyward Sword, and like both versions of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Not just one.
Yeah.
They'll show you both versions to fill those 10 minutes.
Yeah, so the thing you said earlier, actually, about showing us the last 2 Smash characters, they did do that when they showed us Hero from Dragon Quest. Hero and Banjo were in the same E3 Direct. So that was actually really cool. They just showed us 2 characters. So hopefully, I would love it if they just showed us both, because I'm tired of... Dude, I can't believe there's 2 more characters left.
I think they've historically always
and we
showed
have
us
no
2
clue
characters
what they are.
At E3.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I know
Maybe,
for the Wii U version they showed us, and like, granted, Pac-Man wasn't like we talked about this at a podcast a few weeks ago, but during the actual Direct they revealed Palutena and the Miis, so I'm pretty sure. So
that's right. Yeah.
So I'd be like dumbfounded if they didn't reveal like. They're going to show at least one. I would be pretty shocked if they didn't show us the second one as well. So,
yeah. So my projection for the completely possible yet completely disappointing and underwhelming Nintendo E3 Direct is, number 1, their big new surprise game. One of them is literally just like a new Kirby game. And it's like, that's not necessarily disappointing. Kirby games are good. But like, dude, we already have Star Allies that came out on the Switch already. And like, no one pops off at an E3 for a Kirby game. You know what I mean? Like, those games are good, but it's like, all right, you're just going to show us a Kirby game. Like, that can't be your big reveal, is just Kirby. Like, that's just not going to fly, especially when the expectations are so high.
So, this really quick to touch on that.
Go ahead, yeah.
I don't know if you know this about me, Glenn. I'm actually a huge Kirby fan.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah. But
I knew that.
Even then, I just to chime in real quick, I love Kirby. It's one of my favorite franchises. I have a giant Meta Knight plushie that sits right next to my desk. And yeah, even I wouldn't be excited if that's like their flagpole like big reveal.
Like Kirby, it can happen, right? Like it could just be that they're like, oh, our 3 new games are a new Kirby game, a new like Yoshi game in a different art style. Like we did clay, we did yarn. Let's just do like, I don't know, paper mache or like something insane like that, right? So these are all plausible things, and they're not necessarily bad. They're just bad for E3 because the expectations are so high.
Yep.
And it's like, these are the kind of things I would just want them to announce on Twitter and not have it be part of like this big, like right now they're already telling us it's only going to be 40 minutes long. So if you watch these directs, dude, for those 40 minutes go by really fast. So if they even spend 5 minutes on Kirby, you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't with this. Okay. The next really disappointing yet, or not disappointing, just very underwhelming, but still very, very possible announcement is another new Super Mario Brothers game.
Oh, boy.
That would go over so badly, bro. Like, if I see that, you know how many people, like, the funny thing about new Super Mario Brothers is that there's only actually 4 of them. It feels like there's a million.
I was going to say, it feels like there's like 8.
Dude, yeah, every time anyone talks about that series, it feels like there's a million of them. But it's because all 4 of those are like basically the same game. Yeah. So it feels like a million of them. There was one on the DS, one on the Wii, one on the Wii U, and one on the 3DS. And so the Switch got a port of the Wii U one. So it probably isn't going to happen, but it is possible that they're like, oh, look, Mario, you love this guy, right? And it's like, dude, don't show us new Super Mario Brothers, bro. Like, just shadow drop that. Drop that at midnight without us knowing about it, and we'll be more grateful. But at E3, when we want to see Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4, like these big, epic, huge games, new Super Mario Brothers, Yoshi, and Kirby need to stay away, bro. So that's possible, and it would be very, very underwhelming. Again, our goal here is to set our expectations really low so that anything that is cool can really stand out. The other thing that is very possible, and I think is like it would be very disappointing or very underwhelming, is that I already think Metroid Prime 4 will not be at this E3. Like, if it
Wow.
is, I will be really shocked. I really will. Like, even though that game has been in the oven for so long, like even after they restarted development, now would be about the time where you could show us like what the game looks like. I still think it's not going to be there. So that's one thing. But I think Breath of the Wild 2, they're going to show us a lot. Everyone's going to be really excited, and then they're not going to have a date. And that's going to be the other thing where it's like, that's very possible, very, very likely, and we're just not going to get a date for that game. And so I think people at this point, when the next time they see Breath of the Wild, they need to know when it's coming out. If it's just more of like, it might be a year out, people are going to be so upset, dude. Like, we're going to be happy because we got to see it. But, dude, how upsetting is that going to be like, bro, I've been waiting forever. I finally get to see it, and now I have to wait forever still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the vicious E3 cycle is them showing us these like really cool, games that we've probably been waiting for, and then them just like telling us nothing about it. Like, like that's why like people really like the directs, because like, it really forces them to show you gameplay, because that's always like, whenever people fill out their E3 bingo boards, it's, one of the spots is always, CG trailer is like instead of actual like gameplay of your game. So, at least and that's what the beauty of the treehouse as well, is that you get to see a lot of these games in action to know what you're getting yourself into. But I agree with you. It's nothing is like, nothing gets me bluer in the nether region than watching a game get revealed that I'm really excited about, and then that's it. We get a CG trailer, we get a coming soon or like a 2022 flashed across the screen, and like that's it. Like there's no worse feeling.
Yeah. I just realized right now, unrelated, but Sonic is literally a blue ball. And his entire fan base is just there waiting for him to do something good. And there's some deep metaphor there, and I'm just going to let that sit there and let you think and put those pieces together, Kyle.
I mean, the teaser trailer for his new game coming in 2022 is like,
that is a blue ball, my friend.
It's offensive to even call it a trailer. It's offensive to trailers, what they showed us.
Oh my God. All right, so the final thing I'm going to say about this E3 Direct that could be just completely possible and is me lowering my expectations. This is what I think is going to happen. The E3 Direct is going to begin. They're going to go, hey, big new game, Kirby. Okay, cool. And then they're going to go into Yoshi, and it's, Yoshi made by some other thing. And then it's going to go into a Smash character that is like some anime swordman that I don't care about. And then they're going to show Breath of the Wild for 30 seconds and then go, yeah, psych, not coming out for another 5 years. That's where this is going for me. Just this is where I'm setting my expectations. And then the final thing, right? They have Miyamoto come out, and I haven't seen the guy in a Nintendo Direct in ages, right? And he comes out, everyone's so excited, like, oh my God, it's Miyamoto. And he goes, we have one more thing to show you, Kyle. Kyle, are you ready? Miyamoto's going to show you one more thing.
Oh no.
And then they cut to a black screen, and it's a brand new, shiny Fire Emblem game. I will jump tooth first out of my window, bro, into traffic. I will lose it. Oh my God. Miyamoto doesn't even work on that game. Why would he present it?
Despite you. 100.
Oh my God, bro.
Someone at Nintendo knows you, listens to your podcast, and merely just wants to hurt you. They would design a Fire Emblem game from the ground up just to make you upset.
Oh my Lord, bro. I will actually I will perish, bro. Watching that that's the Nintendo Direct. Again, people, I'm walking into it saying that this is what's going to happen, so that anything different than that it becomes pure bliss. All right. As long as they avoid New Super Mario Brothers, fucking Switch, XL, and Fire Emblem, as long as they avoid those two as being their big centerpiece moments, they could be in the Direct, but just not centerpiece. If those are the centerpieces, I'm going to be like, all right, I'm not that disappointed. You know why? Because 2 weeks ago on my podcast, I already braced myself for the tragedy that would be that E3 Direct. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Fire Emblem, bro. What about you? Is Fire Emblem, like, I know that you're not, I think we're similar where we kind of respect Fire Emblem, but like we're not into Fire Emblem the way other people are that we know.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I'm really not into strategy games that much, if I'm being totally honest with you. Like, games like that have just never, ever appealed to me. I like being able to, like, move and, like, mash and not be able to think. Kind of like how I like to play Super Smash Brothers. I don't like to think. But, I think worst case for me is that they show us, like, it's just chalk. You know what I mean? Like, they just show us stuff that we know about. It'll still be fine. It's not going to be bad. I think a worst case scenario is that they're just like, they just don't show us anything Smash related. Like, imagine it just comes and goes and they show us nothing. It's not going to happen.
It's been too long.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. Like, that's 100% not in the plans. But, like, imagine though, like, that would be like a DEF CON like 8. They'd have to make up a DEF CON for that one. But yeah, for me, it's just like, it's the chalk stuff like that. Like, if it's just Mario Golf and Skyward Sword and like Pokemon for 40 minutes, I'm gonna be bored to tears.
Oh boy, if they even show me Skyward Sword, it's like, bro, yeah, I know. You spent an entire direct where you had, Aonuma come out and blue ball us like Sonic and just be like, yeah, this is not about Breath of the Wild 2. Like, don't show me Skyward Sword HD, bro. You already that game looks awesome. Again, all the games I just mentioned, right? Like, even New Super Mario Brothers, like if there was a new one, these games are always good. They're consistently good. I actually do enjoy all of the New Super Mario Brothers games, just not a lot, but I do enjoy them a little bit. These are not going to be bad games. It's going to be an underwhelming show. So again, this show is about reverse hype trains. We don't get on the hype train, okay? The hype train just leads you to disappointment. First stop, disappointment. Second stop, disappointment. Third stop, disappointment. That's all the hype train can ever do. So here at this show, we do the opposite, all right? We take the freaking anti-hype train. And then when we take you down this dark path and it doesn't happen, you're going to be so happy. You're going to be like, Glentendo, he braced me for this, all right? When New Super Mario Brothers came on, I already expected it, so I wasn't disappointed in it.
What's the anti-hype train in real life when like the D stops running and you have to take like the local F all the way where you have to go in New York?
When the express train just becomes a local train at midnight and it takes you 3 hours to get home and you got to walk across town.
Yep.
That's the worst.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But yeah, the only other details about this direct, they also said it's going to be focused exclusively on Switch games. Okay, so there's not going to be, a new Super Switch Pro U XL for everybody. Like the Switch Pro thing, the rumor now is that they're actually going to reveal it within the next couple days ahead of E3 and then have E3 be all about the games and not show the Switch Pro at all. Like it'll already be something we saw. So I don't know. I thought the rumors were that we were going to see it like yesterday or today, and that didn't happen. We do know that like there was like an Amazon listing like in Spain or something that like had the listing up and it called it the Switch Pro. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's basically the anti E3 hype train. Do not board the hype train, guys. Okay. New Super Mario Brothers for the Switch.
Yep.
Newer Super Mario Brothers. That's where we're putting our expectations.
Yeah, listen, like you said, I'll say this again, just to as we're 2 weeks out from this. Believe nothing you read on the internet. Like,
oh boy,
all the fake leaks, all the blurry screenshots with 2021 technology. Like, it's not real. Don't believe it, because like we're also getting like I've been having the same conversation in my own realm of the internet where. Talking about like, people are anticipating when certain trailers for certain like, summer blockbusters and like, films coming out late in the year come out because people are like, oh, if you look at the Sony of like, like Uruguay, like YouTube channel, they updated their banner for this one specific film. So like this has to be dropping soon, right? It's like, no. Stop, like, get your sources of news from like actual sources of news. Like if it's not being reported by IGN or GameSpot or any of those sort of places, don't believe it. Don't believe anything that's written in the Notes app in your iPhone. Like we're better than this. We got 2 weeks, guys. Let's just enjoy the ride.
My favorite Abraham Lincoln quote of all time: "Don't believe anything you read on the internet."
Yeah, I love that when he said that. Was that before or after he fought the vampires?
I don't know, but I saw it on the internet, so it has to be true. So, what are you going to do with the rest of your night, Kyle?
I am hanging out. I got some chores I got to finish at home. I got to edit this upcoming episode of my own podcast coming out this Saturday. So got a lot of stuff I got to get done.
Yeah, I just actually finished the latest episode with famous Smash Brothers commentator, even more famous than you, Vicky Kitty.
110%.
And it was a great episode. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, everybody check it out. Vicky was a phenomenal guest. She is she's awesome. She's pound for pound the hardest working commentator that I know. Like she delves into a story about how, what her plans in a non-COVIDless world were going to be for commentary, and my jaw hit the floor. Like please go listen to it. It's across all platforms, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. I got a fun one coming out this weekend where I talk wax poetically about Sonic the Hedgehog and how disappointed I am. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
That's hilarious. All right, man. So, little guys, little dudes, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We will talk to you next week. See you later.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys. See you next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Super Glentendo. The Glentendo Podcast is a weekly Nintendo/Smash community podcast. Our aim is to have galaxy brain conversations on all things Nintendo. If you like the show, please consider becoming a friendo and supporting on patreon.com/Glentendo. Friendos get early access to the show each Thursday. The show then becomes free to all the following Sunday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts right now and you actually like the show, please give us a good review. It helps boost our visibility so more people can find the show. This show is brought to you by our amazing producers, Naomi Eduardo, In a Yellow Flash, and the legendary Riz.